Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shane Plays Tomb of Annihilation or Tomb of Annihilation notes series as I give my thoughts and tips and notes on running my intrepid group of D&D players through this wonderful 5e adventure. I think, yeah, adventures level 1 through 11. This is the second video, and I'm several sessions ahead of the videos I'm recording, and this is just a really fun adventure. Everybody's having a good time with it. The previous campaign we did, Out of the Abyss, was a very strong campaign, very strong storytelling, all kinds of crazy stuff, but it's pretty heavy and grim. This is dangerous but fun. That's in bonkers is probably my best way to put it. So, anyway, I'll be giving well, first of all, for returning viewers, thank you so much. For new viewers, this is not a blow by blow actual play of a session. What this is a recap of my sessions and experience running Tomb of Annihilation, and just tips for DMing and GMing and rules clarifications and all that stuff. So it gets good feedback from people, which is why I keep doing it. So I'm going to put on my +2, is it +3? +2 spectacles of viewer feedback and or rules clarification. And we're going to dig on in with the viewer feedback from the first video in this series. We'll do a little bit of rules clarification. We'll dive right back in to the what happened in our campaign after that, and talking about how to run the campaign and all that stuff. So here we go. All right, so the majority of viewer feedback I received from episode 1, video 1, was along the lines of, hey, glad you're back, glad you're doing this series after Out of the Abyss, and hey, I'm glad to do it. So and it's good to get that feedback. So Firelord Singer said, finally. And then I think he also made another comment. Well, I don't think, I know he did later, where he said, thanks for the shout out, because Firelord Singer is also doing D&D videos on his channel, recaps and that sort of thing. So check out his stuff. Yeah, he said, thanks for the shout out, Shane. You're welcome. Go get him, Firelord Singer. Strad with a Z, Strad, said, finally you're back. Really been missing your note series. Yeah, man. Glad to be back. And again, thanks for the encouragement. Really appreciate it. Josh Mann said, I really have liked watching different groups new to the game and inexperienced go through a classic hex crawl. Looking forward to your insights as a DM. And, I said, well, I'm looking forward to offering them. And I think one of the things that Josh is referring to is the final part of this adventure is a multi-level classic dungeon experience like the original Tomb of Horrors. I think is what he's talking about, with it being a classic hex crawl. Wannabe said, really excited to see what the rest of Chult has to offer, since when I did start playing in this adventure, the party was already 2 floors deep in the Tomb of the Nine Gods. And I'm like, wow, you started really far in, practically at the end. Hope you had fun. And that's that the Tomb of the Nine Gods is the dungeon at the end of this campaign, if I understand correctly. So let's see what else. Going through the comments. I think there was one more. I think. Oh yeah, Ralph Sellite. So we plan on starting this adventure May 25th, and I'll be DMing. Looking forward to future episodes. Thanks for the info. You're welcome, Ralph, and have fun. This campaign is a blast. Let's see if there's anything else here. That's it. Although I did get a really nice comment. Yeah, and this was actually on my White Plume Mountain video number 9. Ronnie J. Dio, I'm sure this Ronnie James Dio is what that J stands for. It said something really nice. I'm not really sure that I live up to this comment, but it's a really nice comment. There's a lot of nastiness in online comments and stuff like that, and this is kind of the opposite of that. Ronnie said, Shane is as informative and as entertaining as any D&D YouTuber, and he is a kinder DM and man than I am. I will strive to be more like Shane in game and in life. Wow. I mean, I don't. Wow. Very, very nice comment. I do try to be consistent and fair and flex when possible, I guess, with my group, but also, maintain a certain semblance of order amid the chaos. One thing that, I responded to Ronnie, and this is an ongoing comment or observation that has come up through a lot of my videos on D&D is people like, wow, you're a lot more lenient than I would be. And as I've said, one of the reasons that I'm that way is because I'm running this game at a store, and it's to help encourage and maintain community at your friendly local game store. So, at my friendly local game store, and I encourage people to support their friendly local game store. So, if I was running a game at my house, I mean, I wouldn't suddenly turn into some iron-fisted, dictator, but I'd probably be a little bit more, strict isn't even the right word. A little less flexible than I am in the store, because the store, I enjoy running the store. We've got this group is running on like 4 or 5 years now. And after time you become friends with the people that stick around, and and you kind of learn each other. But again, I mean, I've run a game all the way up to like 12 people at the table, and I allow a lot of character classes and combos and crazy stuff from outside supplements out of the core books that I may not allow in my home game if I was homebrewing something or trying to be really focused. For example, I've said before, I'm really big into like the Tolkien style high fantasy. So while at the store, I enthusiastically am like, yep, you want to play a tiefling? Yep. You want to play a dragonborn? Yep. You want to play, if it's in the core books, or I think we're in the core books, Skag or Xanathars. I think that's all. If it's in there, it's good. Other things on a case by case basis, like this most recent campaign. I've got a lizard folk and a tabaxi, and it's working. But at my home campaign, I may or may not do that. But as far as there's a player that we have in our group that a lot of people comment on, like, wow, he does crazy stuff or whatever. He's a friend. And, I have a boss that I learned from, and I think a lot of what you can learn in the workplace also applies to like organized, structured fun like D&D or a tabletop role-playing game. This guy's approach is to coach before any sort of discipline or anything like that. So try to coach people into, whatever, rather than just dropping the hammer. Now, there have been a couple of players I, have asked to leave, but that's only been due to that they can't consistently make the sessions. And that's one thing I do expect is, make the majority of sessions. And if you can't, let's talk. And then if it still you can't, then okay. And that's, again, because we play at a store. And, sometimes people are like, do you have room in your game? And I'm like, no. So I'm not going to keep a seat occupied with somebody who can't consistently make it. And it's not a discipline. It's not a punishment. It's just simply saying you obviously, for whatever reason, can't commit to a weekly game, and if things change in the future, maybe you can come back. So anyway, enough of all that. Again, Ronnie, that was a very nice comment. I told my wife, I was like, if they could only see me all the time, because, talking about trying to be more like me in life. I mean, I'm just as screwed up as everybody else and have to apologize a lot for stupid things and whatnot. But anyway, again, thank you. That was a super nice comment. And a lot of people noticed that comment and talked to me about it. So, okay, that's it for the viewer feedback. So I'll go ahead and shut that off. Now, rules clarification. We don't have much for this session. Let's see. I think the only rules stuff is minor illusion. I wanted to talk about minor illusion because one of my players wanted to use it in a way that doesn't really fit the spell description. So, uh, and I ended up ruling against what they wanted to do. But I'll try to explain why. So this is Minor Illusion, 5th edition version of Minor Illusion, and they have in this session we're going to cover in this video, they have an encounter with an angry dinosaur and Ankylosaur, and they wanted to make a minor illusion of a baby Ankylosaur to kind of distract it or whatever, maybe kick in its parental instincts or something. I don't know, but minor illusion specifically says you create a sound or an image of an object within range that lasts for the duration. Now, if you create an image of an object, such as a chair, muddy footprints, or a small chest, it must be no larger than a 5-foot cube. The image can't create sound, light, smell, or any other sensory effect. Physical interaction with the image reveals it to be an illusion because things can pass through it. So the key here is, in D&D terms, I do believe that an object is specifically not a creature. Like when you say you can make an object or affect an object, I'm pretty sure that excludes creatures, which is why I said, well, you can't make an illusion of a baby dinosaur. So when they said, well, can I make an illusion of a carving of a dinosaur? And I'm like, well, that's an object. So yeah. So, I allowed that, but the actual definition of object excluded, making something that looked like a little baby dinosaur. So I'm looking up object here real quick. Let's see. Yeah, what's considered an object? Let's see. I don't want to spend too much time. Yeah, an object is any physical thing that is not a creature. And they're talking about, like in chapter 10 on page 204 of the player's handbook, something could target a creature, an object, or a point of origin. So that's why I ruled against that. So, and I bring that up, one, I like to, anytime rules clarifications come up in my sessions, I like to bring them to these videos to help other people, okay, well, that's how he ruled, and maybe that'll help me, or you might even disagree. And if people disagree, I love to get that in comments. So, because I'd be like, oh yeah, they're right. I didn't even consider that. So it's good to, talk about stuff. With the right attitude, right? I mean, obviously, I'm not looking for people like, "Oh, you suck! You're the worst thing ever." But another very important point of learning to rule in D&D and a lot in other role playing games really is the definitions of things. So if you're walking around in normal life, and I'm now talking to my wife or my friends or at work or whatever, and I say object, that can have a different definition and a much broader definition than a role-playing game definition. Because a lot of times it's talking about what can be targeted or affected or whatever, or done. In this case, you can make an illusion of an object, but not a creature. It doesn't, even though it doesn't state, but not a creature, the rules expect you to know that if I say object, that's not a creature, because, there's other areas of the rules that lay that out. So anyway, that's it for the viewer feedback and or rules clarification portion of the video. So I'm going to take off my, is it +2, +3? Let's upgrade them. If they weren't +3 before, they're +3 spectacles of viewer feedback and or rules clarification. And we'll get on with the talking about the adventure in this session. Okay, so at the end of last video, they had been hired by an NPC to go to Chult and find something called the Soulmonger, which has something to do with a death curse that is affecting anybody around the world, I guess, not just the continent of Faerun for the Forgotten Realms, but it seems to be a widespread, universal, if anyone's ever been resurrected, brought back to life or whatever, they have this disease, the death curse, where they're slowly they're degrading and looking nasty, and they're losing a maximum hit point per day until they get to 0 when they're dead, and they can't be revived again after that, I don't believe. So, we covered all that last video. I believe the NPC's Syndra Sylvain. And in my personal campaign, I made her a friend of, somebody that the players already know, and kind of facilitated the meeting and the agreement to go on the adventure and all that. Now, one thing I can't remember if I mentioned last video or not, is that the players did negotiate for 50 gold pieces expenses each, and that's in the book. Unless you as DM just automatically have her offer that. She doesn't offer that up front, but if players ask, she will give them 50 gold pieces each for expenses. And it's a good thing if they do that, because, once they get to Chult, they need to possibly hire guides. They probably need to buy canoes. They need to buy supplies. They've got to, beyond just their armor and stuff like that, this is an environment where you have to buy like rain catchers so you can have fresh water, and, insect repellent, and all of these things. Plus all just the other crazy stuff in Chult. Another thing that the reward by the book is, she says, if you successfully complete this mission for me, this quest, then I will reward you with basically a magic item of your choice. But it doesn't really list out exactly what that means. Instead, what they did was they asked for 1,000 gold pieces for the guild up front, and then 3,000 gold pieces for the guild on completion, because they're, the overarching narrative we have that ties all of our various campaigns and adventures together is this Vanguard of the Eye adventuring guild, adventuring company, mercenary company in some ways. And so she agreed to that. And so she dispatched 1,000 gold pieces to their guild headquarters then. And then, said, if you finish and everything, then we'll get another 3,000 gold pieces for your guild. So that's what they negotiated for, and of course she was like, you'll probably find, loot and magical items and all this cool stuff as you're adventuring. So before I continue, with what happened in their campaign, I want to talk a little bit about Port Nyanzaru, the chapter 1 of the book, because there's not really a narrative to chapter 1. There's a lot of potential stuff that players can do, but there's nothing that really says go A to B to C to D and then off into the jungle. It's not really like that. It's a bit of a sandbox. So let's go over chapter 1 and take a look at Chult sort of in general. Another thing I want to mention again that I mentioned last video, there's this handout, there's this map in the back of the book, and half of it, one side of it is not filled in, the other one is. So this is the DM's map, this is the player's map. Sometimes this is handy to just lay out, let everyone look at, but what I recommend doing is get a printout, a handout, or 2 or 3 copies of the handout of this map and hand it out. Now, there's not a handout in the book beyond this big one, but as I mentioned last video, and I'll mention again this one, in the show notes, in the notes on this video, there will be a link to a Reddit post that has legal, I believe, I don't think anything is here is being pirated or anything like that. It's legal copies of various maps and handouts for Tomb of Annihilation, and one of them is a smaller, kind of like letter page size copy of this map. And I was like, don't forget the handouts. I even wrote myself a note, and I forgot the handouts. So it wasn't until the next session after this one that I gave them their little smaller handouts, and I think we just used a big one. And really, for the first few sessions, they're probably going to be in Port Nyanzaru So they probably don't need a handout, but players like that kind of thing. And in fact, one of my players is like in character is for the noble family they represent. The main reason they're part of the guild is so they can collect information on trading and this and that stuff and send it back to the larger noble family they represent. I mean, they're adventuring and they're legit part of the guild, but they're also, hey, I went to Cholt and there was all this cool stuff here that we could potentially trade or profit from, or whatever. So he's been asking for maps and keeps pressing for maps, and I'm like, this is the best map that she can possibly. She's pulled this map together from all of her best information. That's the best map you're going to find, because he was wanting to run all over Baldur's Gate and look for more maps, and she's like, we got to go, we got to teleport. I'm dying here. So she's literally got a expiration date on her. But anyway, I digress, as I am wont to do. Let's take a look at chapter 1. Everything up to everything that we covered last session was really the prologue. And so now this is chapter 1, Port. My cat's down there making noise. Port Nyanzaru, and you get that nice picture of the dinosaur races. Yes, there is dinosaur racing in Port Nyanzaru, and we had an entire session that was nothing but bonkers dinosaur racing, and it's a lot of fun. We'll get to that. And then my cat is wearing me out. There's all kinds of side quests. There's a map on page 19 of Port Nyanzaru itself, which is basically just a seaport. It's really the only civilized town in the entire continent, and it's in the northern part of Cholt, and it's very cosmopolitan. There's people from all over the Forgotten Realms that come in and out. It's kind of like New York City if New York City was in Africa, although it's not that big, but it's that kind of bustling craziness. And there's all kinds of different wards and everything. And by wards, I mean areas of the city, not, wards against things. Let's see what else in here. It goes over different beasts for sale, like flying monkeys and Ankylosaurus and Deinonychus. I'm going to try it. Deinonychus. It's a type of dinosaur. Flying snakes. You can buy a Triceratops for only 500 gold pieces. Talks about the magic items for sale. Now, this is actually, I'm back up. Disregard that for a second, because that's actually what the merchant princes can offer. Okay, there's some markets. There's like 3 main markets in the city that sell basically common goods. If it's in the player's handbook, you can probably buy it. There's a few exotic items that you can purchase from these markets. Like local remedies and local food and that sort of thing. So what I was just talking about, there's some things, if it's an exotic thing that's not like in the regular adventuring gear in the player's handbook, you're going to get it from one of the merchant princes, and there are 9 merchant princes. I believe it's either 7 or 9. Let me see if it says here. It says in here which merchant princes there are. Let's see if I can find them. And they all sell different stuff. Merchant princes. 7 merchant princes rule Port Nyanzaru. All are Cholton. Their single qualification is there's the 7 richest people in the city. And there's an example villa for a merchant prince's villa here in the book. If that becomes, I'm sure, well, let's break in, let's sneak in at night or whatever, or they go visit. We had our players do end up visiting a merchant prince. When you arrive, your benefactor, she goes with you, she teleports with you, and she immediately she has a merchant prince friend named Wakanga Otamu, and she goes to stay with him. She's like, good luck. I'm going to be at Wakanga's place. Keep me updated and come find me if you need me. And Wakanga is the merchant prince that sells magic items. So, I had one of my players, as they're going through these markets, kept going, I want books, I want lore, I want all this stuff. And I'm like, you're not finding that. If you want books and lore and that kind of thing, you're going to have to go to one of these merchant princes. Either that or get on the black market or something like that. But he kept asking, and I kept going, you're just not seeing that sort of thing. And then so he started asking me, where can I buy books? Where can I buy this? And they're like, merchant princes. You go to the merchants. They're going to have stuff like that. Because your average, again, the three. Let's see if I can find them here. See if I can find these markets. I really recommend just going through chapter 1, looking at what the book. Look at what the city has to offer. But the market ward has the Red Bazaar, the fish market, the Grand Colosseum, the Hall of Gold, which is a temple to one of the local gods, or to Joaquin. There's a public bathhouse and the dye works, and that's what's in the market ward. And then in other areas, there's some other markets too. But the Red Bazaar is, I think, the biggest market. Let's see if I can find the Grand Souk, number 6 on the map, is one of the big markets, and the other two are the Jewel Market and the Red Bazaar. So if they're looking to buy stuff, just average adventuring gear, or I want to buy a diamond so that I can cast my spells or whatever, send them to the Red Bazaar, the Grand Souk, or the Jewel Market. So, and it says everything listed in Chapter 5 in the Player's Handbook can be purchased in the Grand Souk. Unusual items might not be available. Elephants aren't found in Chult, for example, but a merchant can always be contracted who will bring an item to order for the right price. And for me personally, I would have that go through the merchant princes. So that's just me personally. There's several temples in the city, and just get to know the city, because the players are going to want to explore around. More than likely, unless you just want to get them out of Port Nyanzaru as quickly as possible, and then get to know the merchant princes, because there's some potential interesting encounters there. Or like I said, if they want to buy certain things, you can send them to a merchant prince, and then again the NPC that has hired them, Sindra Sylvain, is staying with a merchant prince. It talks about the factions. Starting on page 29, the factions that are there: the Emerald Enclave is there, the Flaming Fist, the Harpers, the Lord's Alliance, Order of the Gauntlet, the Red Wizards of Thay, the Yatepka Society, also known as the Triceratops Society, is there. They're based in Port Nyanzaru and dedicated to preventing any individual or group from abusing power and upsetting the natural social order. The Zentarum are there, of course. There's always going to be the good old mob, the organized crime of the Forgotten Realms. Now, the Red Wizards of Thay, which it plays in even a little bit more stronger with my personal campaign, because the guild that the players belong to and the Red Wizards of Thay have enmity between them in history. That's where the enmity comes from. The Red Wizards are in Chult to find and steal the Soulmonger for the lich that runs runs all of Thay. We've occupied the heart of Obteo and using it as a base. Their leader is Valindra Shadowmantle. She remains at the heart of Obteo while her Thayan minions comb the ruins of Omu for clues to the Soulmonger's whereabouts. Heart of Obteo will come up later, as that's a location out in Chult. The point is, there's a lot of areas in Port Nyanzaru. Okay, and I would recommend, because when your players show up, unless you very specifically, I want you to go here and do this and leave. If they want to wander around, and I recommend it because it's a fun setting, and it's like going to everything in D&D is like foreign to us, right? But for D&D adventurers, this is a legit kind of like foreign adventure. It's like, wow, I'm in a different country. This is crazy. So I would recommend getting to know Port Nyanzaru, and there's a lot of locations and flavor that I didn't even get into. So but I would definitely go through the chapter, learn what there is, and then so that way you're prepared. You don't have to memorize it. You don't have to be a walking, encyclopedia, but at least you kind of know where it is in the chapter. And it says the things to do. This starts on page 31. The main things that you can do in Port Nyanzaru are to buy a special item. Dinosaur racing. I mean, I'm sure your players are going to want a dinosaur race. I mean, if for some reason they don't want to, or if you don't want to run that part, that's fine. I mean, there's still all the rest of the adventure. But the dinosaur racing is fun. And there's going to be hijinks, right? If you mix players and dinosaur racing, I mean, there's definitely hijinks with us. So finding a guide, that's one of the things you'll need to do, and that's covered in this chapter. We'll get into that more in a later video session. And then gathering information. Right? Where do we go? Where's the soulmonger? We don't even know. We're in Chult, but we don't know where to do. We don't know where to go. And then there's these special items that some of the main special items are a canoe, insect repellent. That's pretty important. Rain catchers. That's where you collect fresh rainwater so you can drink. You don't want to drink out of the river, the standing water in Chult. It's got diseases in it. A tej, T-E-J, is an amber-colored fermented drink made from honey, and it's more common in Chult than beer. And then Yikulwa, a simple melee weapon. It's a 3-foot wooden shaft with a steel or stone blade up to 18 inches long. So there's some special items, and then it goes into here again on page 31. It says characters can easily find most mundane items for sale in any of Port Nyanzaru's markets at standard prices. Anything needed to survive in the jungle is considered a mundane item in Chult. The chief exception is heavy armor, which is rare in Chult and thus commands a high price. Triple the player's handbook prices for heavy armor, or double them if the character makes a successful DC 15 Charisma persuasion check. The only alternative to buying specialty items through the merchant princes, I mentioned this before, is to the black market, which is highly secretive. In Port Nyanzaru, the merchant princes crack down harshly on competitors. Contacting black marketeers takes half a day in the Old City, Miller's Throat, or Kariki Anchorage, which are parts of Port Nyanzaru, plus a successful charisma deception check to pose the right questions. And then to determine the black market price of an item, multiply the item's normal price by 1d4 plus 2. If unusually large quantity is needed, increase the price multiplier by 1. So they can buy what they want, but again, if they want anything outside of regular adventuring gear, they're going to have to go through the black market or specialty merchants, and then in heavy armor is triple normal price or double, depending on if they make a good persuasion check. Again, we will talk later in later videos about the guides, and then also the dinosaur races. Have no fear. On page 36, there is a rumors table. I love random tables for rumors and stuff like that. So gathering information on page 36, the challenge for characters isn't getting people to tell them about Chult. It's sifting the truth from the mountain of rumor, conjecture, and myth. The best people to talk to are those who actually work or live in the jungle, hunters, guides, and explorers. No skill checks are necessary to get people talking, but to acquire reliable information, characters must go where in-the-know folks gather. For each hour spent talking to knowledgeable travelers, a character can make a DC 15 Wisdom Insight check. If the check succeeds, roll percentile dice and consult the Chult rumors table to determine what the character learns. So, and I think what I did was they all wanted to hang out, like when they finally made it to their lodging, and I think they all got a rumor, basically. Rumors are fun to hand out, but you can do it by the rules there if you want. And the places to stay in Chult are in in the market ward near the Red Bazaar, which is it's huge slabs of dinosaur meat sold here, and buckets of blood that stain the rain-wash gutters. Probably is where it got its name from. So, unlike the Grand Souk, which deals heavily in durable goods and luxury items, the Red Bazaar deals in everyday needs. Locally produced meat, vegetables, tropical fruit, tej, which is that sort of honeymead drink, light tropical clothing, insect repellent, rain catchers, household goods, etc. Buyers and sellers in the Red Bazaar are predominantly locals. Now, in the Grand Souk, you get people from all along the Sword Coast. So, two noteworthy inns are located near the Red Bazaar. The Thundering Lizard caters to a raucous clientele, and a bed for the night costs 5 silver pieces. And then Kaya's House of Repose, which is much quieter, but a bed for the night costs a gold piece. Wilderness guides are known to frequent both establishments. So that's a good place to get lodging. And eventually they're going to want to find a guide, unless you handle it differently, to go out into Chult itself, into the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. So other things worth noting is that there are side quests on page 16 and 17 that they can get into while exploring Chult. And if they stick around for a few days, now remember, time is somewhat of the essence in this adventure, but at the same time, you want to let them have a little bit of fun, right? So, so they just stick around too long, you can have, their employer go, shouldn't you guys be out in the jungle, doing what I asked you to do? But, I think my group stayed in Port Nyanzaru 3 or 4 days and did some very important information gathering. And of course, they did dinosaur racing, and they did a side quest that I'll talk about later video, which has helped them quite a bit. But it basically, starting on page 16 for the side quest, it says, as the characters explore Port Nyanzaru, they might encounter NPCs who need their help. Given the urgency of their mission, characters might be reluctant to take on side quests. They're under no obligation to complete them. However, completing a side quest can lead to unexpected rewards and discoveries. Introduce as many or as few as side quests as you like. The NPCs who trigger them can be encountered anywhere in the city. So, if things seem to be getting like, I don't know what to do next, or it's kind of dragging, or I don't know, then just roll it 1d10 and give them a side quest, or just pick one. I think that's what I did. If you can't decide which side quest to choose, roll a d10. I guess there's 10 of them. And there's a pretty good range of types of side quests here. I actually, and we'll get into this in later videos, but number 1, collect a debt, and then number 3, escort a priest to Camp Vengeance were pretty important to my party. But there's other ones in here. And one that might be of particular interest to people is number 5, find Artist Simber, a half-elf named Zandala. I didn't do this one, so I'm going to go ahead and read it now. A half-elf named Zandala, see Appendix D, approaches the characters and claims to be Artist Simber's daughter. Feigning worry, she asks the characters to help her find him. Artist can't be found using magic, but Zandala has heard that Artist left the city with a reptilian man who doesn't talk and smells funny. Both were last seen heading into the jungle. Zandala wants the Ring of Winter in Artist's possession, but she doesn't share this with the characters. Summerwise, Zandala's pet pseudo-dragon thinks the quest for the ring is too dangerous, but has given up trying to talk sense into his mistress. Good aligned characters might be able to turn Summerwise against Zandala, or at least get information from it that they can use to thwart Zandala's plan or to aid Artist. Now, the reason I'm bringing all that up is one of the, I don't think it's crucial to the completing the adventure, but Artist Simber is, kind of an adventure, and I guess he's a personality from previous D&D adventures and previous editions, is on Chult, and you can run into him. And he's got interesting artifacts, and I guess he's kind of an interesting personality in his reptilian sidekick. So this is one way to get them looking for Artist Simber, right? I haven't really made it a big part of my campaign. So there's side quests. You can also, if they're just really bored, or you can't think of what to do, Their appendix, in this appendix, you'll want to get really um, acquainted with, get to know it well. Appendix B, random encounters, page 193 through whatever. It goes for several pages through 204. So it's pretty good size appendix. There are entire sessions I've run where everything was traveling and a chance of random encounters. So when you're out exploring Chult, this random encounters table in section is very important. It's not just monster encounters. It could be an interesting, like you find some ruins or you run into some lizard folk that aren't hostile but seem kind of curious, or you could see somebody up on a bluff watching you, or you could see a winged bird thing flying overhead. But a lot of times it is a they. I mean, they've been attacked by dinosaurs and velociraptors and a giant crocodile and a shark and just all kinds of crazy stuff. Skeletons, just whatever. But if you're in Port Nyanzaru, says, and this is in Appendix B, it says Port Nyanzaru has a lot going on even without random encounters. But if the characters spend time exploring the city, a few random incidents can help bring that experience to life. Roll a d20 3 times per day of game time, checking for encounters each morning, afternoon, and evening or night. You don't have to do that. I didn't do it that way, but you can if you want. The point is, if you want a random encounter, or to kick something off while you're in Port Nyanzaru, this is a good way to do it. An encounter occurs on a roll of 16 or higher. Roll a d20 and check the Port Nyanzaru encounters table. And the Port Nyanzaru encounters table is here on page 193. And all kinds of crazy stuff can happen. And 11 through 20, the characters meet an NPC with a side quest, which kicks you back over to these side quests I was just talking about on page 16. Yeah, 16 and 17. One of the random encounters I think I just chose to have happen, and I had it happen this session that we're talking about right now, was near the harbor, and Ankylosaurus that tows boats through the warehouse canals goes on a rampage and must be calmed, restrained, or killed. So I had that happen. Now, to get into the campaign, what happened with my players, of course, they teleport to Port Nyanzaru, and there's this, on page 16, there's a text block where it says you appear in a tropical city under the blazing sun, and they appear in the harbor ward not far from the harbor master's office. So you appear in a tropical city under the blazing sun. The familiar sounds of a harbor, creaking ropes, slapping waves, heavy barrels rolling across cobblestones, mingle with voices shouting and cursing in an unfamiliar language filled with clicks, inhalations, and sing-songy words that make it sound almost musical. So keep in mind that the Chultans speak their own language. Now, a lot of them can speak Common. And when they talk Common, I ended up giving them almost sort of a, hey, how's it going, man? Kind of a easygoing, friendly, accented kind of, hey, how's it going? Oh, and like when they keep seeing the lizard folk, a lot of them are like, he gets a lot of lizards, like, you are beautiful, man. The aroma of unfamiliar spices and tropical fruit mixes with the wharfside smells of fish tar and canvas. Beyond all that, Port Nyanzaru is an explosion of color. Buildings are painted in bright shades of blue, green, orange, and salmon pink, or their walls are adorned with murals portraying giant reptiles and mythical heroes. Every building sports baskets and clay urns of colorful flowers or is draped in leafy flowering vines. Minstrels in bright clothing adorned with feathers and shells perform on street corners. Also, a lot of the minstrels in Port Nyanzaru are tabaxi, the cat people. Keep that in mind. Multicolored pennants and sun awnings flutter atop the city walls. A crowd of children dressed in feathered hats and capes races past you. Squealing in delighted terror as a street performer costumed as a big-toothed lizard stomps and roars behind them. The whole city seems to be bustling, sweating, laughing, swearing, and singing. So Syndra, their benefactor, when they teleport there, says, hey, I recommend that you get rooms at either Thundering Lizard or Kaya's House of Repose. Both ends are located near the Red Bazaar. And then she says, hey, I'm headed to the villa of the merchant prince Wakanga Otamu. There she intends to stay for the remainder of the adventure. If the characters express an interest in accompanying her, which my party didn't, she's happy to introduce them. They do end up looking her up later once they in a couple of days they know when they're going to be leaving, and they've got a little bit of information, so they do seek her out. And they get a chance to meet Wakanga then and go to his villa. When describing the sights and sounds of Port Nyanzaru, emphasized the heat, humidity, the exotic sounds and smells, and other unique aspects of Port Nyanzaru. There's some descriptions on page 16 of things that are distinctive about Port Nyanzaru. Medium and large dinosaurs are used as beasts of burdens. Flowers, green plants, and vines grow everywhere, seeming to spring out of the building stones themselves. The profusion of greenery needs constant tending to prevent roots and shoots from damaging buildings or tile roofs. The city's defensive walls and towers are topped with colorful awnings to shield guards from the sun and rain. All streets within the city walls are paved with cobblestones or flagstones, and they have deep rain gutters as much as 2 feet wide. Residents of Port Nyanzaru pay little attention to any but the heaviest deluge. I mean, it rains a lot. Tabaxi minstrels wander the streets, performing for anyone who tosses them a few coins. Walls divide the city into districts, and the open archways above the streets are painted with murals, dinosaurs, mountains, and mythic heroes, and then crumbling ancient buildings covered with vines and lichens indicate the city's great age. So, and there's more description there, but that'll kind of help get you going. Again, I gotta stress, study the chapter, because you don't know which direction the players are going to go. All right, so as far as what my players actually did once their benefactor, their patron, the person that hired, their boss, their employer, teleported them there, she's like, I'm off to my friend the merchant prince. She takes off, and they explore the city, kind of wandering around. One thing that, like, they hit up the markets, and one of my players was just kind of playing around, and he's like, hey, I want a local remedy for, and he's thinking, like, when you go to a foreign country, you can get Montezuma's Revenge, the trots, and that's not really, I mean, there are diseases and stuff if you drink the water and all that in here, these throat worms or leeches or something like that can cause exhaustion. But I mean, there's plenty of fresh water, as long as you drink rainwater and water that's been purified some ways. And of course, you got clerics with you and stuff. They can make water. But we called it, joking around, Revenge of the Visitor, kind of as a nod to Montezuma's Revenge. So the merchant gave him something in a gourd for 3 gold pieces. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. And I kind of played it like, when people go to Tijuana and they're like, hey, you got that Spanish fly? And they're like tourists, Americans. So they'll sell them whatever, go look up Spanish fly. I'm not going to go into it here, but they'll sell them some junk. Here you go. And, oh, really? So, anyway, so they gave him this just noxious stuff in a gourd for 3 gold pieces. And another character did an insight and realized they were just basically messing with a tourist. So that was kind of a fun moment. And so as they're kind of exploring around, and they went to the Great Souk, and I'm kind of explaining the city and everything to them. And as they were trying to get to the Red Bazaar, because they're like, oh, that's where we need to go find lodging. See if I can remember where the Harbor Ward is. Where's the Harbor Ward? Okay, yeah, so kind of north of the Red Bazaar, which is, I think, area 19. No, the 18. Area 18. So kind of northeast of that, there's like the Coliseum, and then there's the fish market, and there's a harbor there. And there's kind of I don't know if you can see it here, but all of this is sort of the harbor. Okay. All of that is where boats can dock. Now up here is more considered the Harbor Ward, and down here isn't necessarily the Harbor Ward, but there is harbor there. And what I had happen after they explored around for a while, got a feel for the local culture and flavor. And I think the wizard bought some of those flowy, colorful robes and that sort of thing. I was like, okay, it's time to have a little bit of action. So as they got close to that southern part of the harbor, I had that Ankylosaurus random encounter happen where an Ankylosaurus goes nuts, and they're like, and it's rampaging around. I think like the Choltons that they were talking to in common were describing it as a tug lizard. It's basically a tugboat, but because it helps maneuver boats in the harbor. But it had broke loose and gone crazy. So of course they got into a fight with it. This is where the sorcerer's like, I want to make an illusion of a baby dinosaur, and I was like, so we landed on a carving of a baby dinosaur, and it's still, I think I did give for one round, I think I let him do a persuasion basically, and for one round, it was like, so it paused it for a second, but I wanted to reward creativity, but not completely throw game balance out the window, right? So they threw Entangle once, and then a couple of instances of Grease. Now, one of the questions that came up, I think actually that I wrote down for next video, but I'll actually go into here, is like, does Grease actually put literal grease on the ground, or does it just make the area slippery? And best I could tell reading the spell description, it's a literal grease. Now, it's not, I don't think it's flammable, at least not in 5e, but it's literally a substance, a slick substance. They were doing some animal handling checks. They were trying not to attack the dinosaur if possible, because they're like, they were smart enough to realize this is like property of the harbor or somebody. This is a beast of burden, not just a rampaging whatever. And they did try not to, but it did, not to actually hurt it or fight it, but it did come down to the point where they ended up having to do some fighting, and a couple of daggers were stuck in its head or whatever. Now it knocked out the lizard folk character. And I had it again where it got kind of confused after it knocked out the lizard folk. It was like, because this little a reptilian aspect, it's basically a lizard man. It looks like a lizard. And for some reason at this point in the campaign, I'm under the impression, I don't know where I came up with this impression because it's not right, that there's no lizard folk on Cholt. There's lizard-like creatures and there's, dinosaurs, but actual lizard folk, there aren't any. Well, actually about 10% of the population of the entire continent is lizard folk. So I ended up changing that to, it's very uncommon to see a lizard folk in Port Nyanzaru or like a civilized lizard folk hanging out with adventurers, because everyone's like, well, you are beautiful, man. So anyway, so it confused it for a second. So the lizard folk player during the fight got knocked out. I think it just charged him and knocked him out or something. But he got healed, and as he was healed, he's kind of on the ground, and this is a druid, so it used animal handling and calmed it down. Finally got it calmed down, so it was like, it was confused. It was like, I just knocked this thing out. Did I just knock out a little baby dinosaur? What's going on here? So it stopped for a second, and the lizard folk player got healed from afar, and he woke up. And the thing was kind of looking at him, so I used animal handling. I think I made it like a DC 15 or something. Succeeded, and the lizard, the Ankylosaurus kind of calmed down. Well, but there was grease cast, so on the next round, the Ankylosaurus started us around in the grease, so it failed its dexterity check. Went down again, boom, and this wasn't the first time that it slipped, got up, slipped. So it slipped again, boom, landed on the lizard folk, did 3 damage, and then it immediately began sort of nuzzling the lizard folk player, Throden. It kind of nuzzling him and, oh, little baby lizard, just having some fun with it. And that's where we ended. So on next session, the harbor employees are going to start showing up, and they have done a little bit of damage to this dinosaur. They didn't kill it by any means, but most of the players were like, don't hurt it. Let's try to calm it down. They were showing a remarkable amount of restraint for murder hobos. And then of course the one player is like, I kill, the rogue player is like throwing knives and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So there's like knives sticking out of this thing's head. So that's where we'll take back up next session. A lot of this session was just getting to know Port Nyanzaru and establishing Chult. And it's humid, it's hot, it rains a lot. The people are friendly. They're wearing blowing, light, colorful stuff. There's colors everywhere. And also Port Nyanzaru is very cosmopolitan. There's merchants and traders and visitors from all over the Forgotten Realms. The Grand Souk market is full of merchants from the Sword Coast, right? So very cosmopolitan area, but the rest of Chult is not. I mean, it's welcome to the jungle, right? So anyway, don't forget, made a note here, study those side quests, study the random encounters in Appendix B, and then just kind of, get familiar with the Chultan races and the dialect, the fact they have their own language and dialect, the environment, the weather, the way that the city is ruled by merchant princes. The 7 richest people in the city rule Port Nyanzaru. Black market, very frowned on. It's exotic. Have a lot of fun. Dinosaur races, have a lot of fun with it. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. And when we take up back next time, the harbor employers are going to show up, and we'll see what happens with the fact that their tugboat now has a bunch of knives sticking out of its face. And it's sitting there nuzzling. It's like, oh, I got a little baby. Got a little baby Ankylosaurus. So I don't know why I said it that way. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and we will catch you next time on Shane Plays.
My revenge shall be eternal! Montezuma, there shall be no revenge! Revenge?